Preparing and hey guys, it is Friday and TGIF. Hey Laura, how you doing?
I am doing great. I love this cooler weather. Welcome fall. I feel like it's football game weather, Friday night football game in high school. Except we are so excited today. We have a person on today that's going to make you be inspired for hope and faith. Julie Papieves has been a friend of ours since we were in high school.
Yeah.
I did flowers for her when I had my florist, and she's just such a wonderful, upbeat person. But she's going to talk about a story that happened to her, a major horrific car accident on 1993. And it's just amazing. So if you have family and friends that are around you, have them gather around the computer or your phone to see this amazing interview. With that, Debbie, I'm going to bring it over to you.
Well, thank you, Lori. And I just want to say that for anybody here watching, honestly, the audience that we have, Lori and I started this platform, a little bit over a year ago, and it has been a blessing to us that we've been able to find and bring people that we can get their story out, get their experience out, get their knowledge out, get their passion out to others, to give others hope. And it's exactly what Lori was saying. Julie's an inspiration to people. Julie has even wrote a book. I have a copy right here in front of me, and I will pride myself to say that it is actually signed by Julie herself. Julie and I are like sisters. Julie is the sister of my sister-in-law. Okay, Julie's sister married my brother-in-law, and but I knew Julie and I knew her sister Tammy before I knew my husband. Okay, so I've known Julie for a very long time, and I've known her family. I've known a lot about you, and the story. I don't want to get teary-eyed. The story. We'll talk about a couple of sequence of events going forward in just a few minutes, but I'm telling you, you guys, hold on to your chair, because not only does Julie have a story, but she has a passion and a heart to share. And, Julie, I love you. I do. And I don't want to cry, but take it away, okay?
Okay. Stop. Okay. Thank you guys for inviting me to be here today and share my story. This is actually the Lord's story. This is God's story. And he presents me with these opportunities to be able to tell his story and share his story. And I remember, and I'll go back to explain the beginning, but when I woke up from my 6-week coma, when I was in Marion Joy, I remember my parents had the chaplain bring me communion every day. And he said to me, how do you feel about this? How could God let this happen to you? What's going to happen with your life going forward? And I said, it's going to be my job to share his story and to bring people hope. That is what I wanted to do from the jump of getting up from my coma, waking up from my coma. And that is the promise that I made. And I'm so happy that he presents me with opportunities like this. And I speak to the Think First program. It's an injury prevention program that was put together by the College of Neurosurgeons to many schools. And because there are many accidents that happen, crashes that happen, they're not accidents or crashes that happen with teens. That's the number one cause of death of teens, unfortunately. And now with the whole cell phone use and everything, they've gone up exponentially higher. And so that's something that I'm really proud to be able to do and speak to schools a lot. And I've spoken to medical schools. I've been all over the place speaking, and it's all because of God has put those opportunities in front of me. And I've been very fortunate too, to be able to, I now work at Fairhaven Wealth Management, and I'm privileged to be able to work there because, I understand a lot of people wonder, when something like this catastrophic happens and, my life would just fall apart and what would happen. But there are things that all of us can do. I mean, thankfully, I had great insurance because now I have to be on Social Security disability, and Medicare is the only way that I can get insurance. But because I had a good insurance policy, when I was injured, I was able to not be totally financially devastated. I've always been a person who, and Debbie and I've talked about this, I'm a saver. Also, I was raised like that. And so I've always tried to live within my budget and put money aside. And so that money, you invest and you talk to people who actually can help you do that, and it grows, and you feel like at least you have a little umbrella over you and you have a little safeguard, and that allows you to sleep at night. And that's something that each of us can do in some little way, even if it's $5, at the end of the month or something, whatever it is. There are ways that you can invest your money. And just like you go to the dentist or to the eye doctor or to the regular doctor, whoever you go to people who specialize in their field. And it's the same thing with your money too, is that, to talk to people in insurance, to talk to people who really know the business of it. And I know that people think that, oh, they're just salespeople. No, they're people who know their business. And I think that people need to really reach out to others who know. I mean, I worked for Romanucci and Blandon law firm for 20 years too. And they're wonderful people and treated me wonderful too, as well as Fairhaven. And, um, you know, to have that kind of good, solid legal support, families need that and gain so much from that. So I think just surrounding yourself with professionals who really could help and benefit your life, having that around you, I think really makes each person a little more solid when something happens, like happened to me, just, in a split second. And so let me go back and start at the beginning of my story. I kind of began with the ending. So let me go back. So I was leaving Yorktown Shopping Center, May 10th, 1993. And it's the Fifth Third Bank exit on the Highland Avenue side. And Highland Avenue, as you probably know, are 2 lanes going each way, 35 miles an hour, with a grass median in the middle. And I was making a left-hand turn to go south on Highland Avenue. And there was a young man who recently had gotten his license who was speeding. So he, number one, was breaking that law. He was going 50 miles an hour approximately. And I was in a little Mazda sports car and he was in a bigger, older car. So as I made the left-hand turn to go south on Highland Avenue, he rammed right into the latch of my driver's door at 50 miles an hour. And the force of his car hitting twisted my head around on the brainstem and lacerated and severed most of it. Now, I didn't know that your brain had a stem. So any of you who do are much smarter than I was, because I didn't realize that. And your brainstem is like the little indentation in the back of your neck, and it connects your brain to your spinal cord. And it is how you live. Like, so when they say, oh, we're gonna, when a woman is pregnant, we're going to listen to the heartbeat at like 6 weeks, you can hear a heartbeat. That's because you already have a brainstem that's formed, because that controls and gives you a heartbeat, blood pressure, all the involuntary functions are held in the little, what Dr. Shea called the little candle of life. That's what physicians, neurosurgeons call it. So, just such a little part of your body. And that was just so easily injured in a car crash. And two, that's how most spinal cord injuries happen. That's how most deaths happen with youth. And so these things are very real, and they can happen to any one of us at any time. And there was an off-duty paramedic who was at the scene, who saw and heard the crash. He had his radio, and he was with the Downers Grove station by Good Samaritan Hospital. And you may or may not know, there's a fire station that's just a half block down the street from Yorktown. And he got on his radio and he was calling those guys, and he told them to bring the jaws of life, because my car was so crashed in, there'd be no other way that they could get me out. And so he was trying to save time. And so he got on his radio, was calling them as he was running over to the car. And he said my car then was going up on the grass median part. So he knew I was obviously unconscious because the car was just rolling. And when he got to my car, there was an off-duty doctor, his wife is a nurse, also on their cell phones, giving instructions to the paramedics. And he said my head was so far down into my chest that he thought either broke my neck or severed my brainstem or both. But either way, I was not getting an air, having any airway. And he said, I was a trained paramedic. I couldn't leave you like that. So he broke the back window. He jumped in behind me. And because he was trained, lifted my head to start an airway. And when he lifted my head, both of my pupils were dilated. And I have one permanently dilated pupil because the nerves on my left side are so damaged. But I now, through all kinds of rehab, I have 20/40 vision in that eye. So yay. So
Yay.
yes, it's
Yeah,
really,
that's awesome.
it's amazing. Prism lenses for 20 years. And now I have these special contacts. I actually had to take them off today because I have allergies and my eyes are kind of sensitive right now. But through all that eye rehab, I have 20/40 vision in this eye. And this eyelid obviously is no longer paralyzed closed. Because when I woke up, after a month, they moved me in coma from Loyola to Marion Joy Rehab Hospital. And after being there a couple of weeks, I just woke up, but I was paralyzed on my left side, head to toe, fed through G tube, in diapers, the whole thing. And when they called my mom and dad, the chaplain from Loyola called my mom and dad the night of my crash, and the chaplain said, "How fast can you be here?" And my dad recently passed away, and he said that not getting his own diagnosis of cancer, but getting that phone call about my injury, that was the worst day. And as parents, anybody can understand that. I unfortunately wasn't able to be a parent because of my injury, but I know all of you who are parents can completely understand how overwhelming and devastating that would be. And they were told that the death rate from my injury. So in a lot of states, you guys, I could have been legally declared dead because the paramedics, my body died on the way to the hospital. But like a lot of the stories you hear, it's got to be a doctor who has to legally declare you dead. So the paramedics called ahead. Dr. Shea, my neurosurgeon, did an EEG test on my brain to determine life or death status. And I did not have enough brain function to keep me alive. So in a lot of states, I could have been legally declared dead and not put on life support. But in Illinois, we have a law that your next of kin, your family member, your caregiver has to be contacted before you can be legally declared dead. And so that's why they call my mom and dad in to make the decision to keep me on or take me off. Although, it's not really a decision my mom and dad felt. It was just of course, you hope for the best and you just pray to God that he will heal. And he did. But I did go to heaven. I did die and I did spend some time in heaven. And I have to say, that is a lot of what sustains me each day is the glory of heaven, the glory of God. And I can picture it like it was yesterday. And I kind of live in the peace of that moment because it was perfect peace. And I knew I was there in that place because I was dead. And I was happy to be there and I wanted to stay there. And there were no floors or ceilings or walls except this very narrow aisleway to the left-hand side. And I remember thinking when I was up there, wow, when there's like a natural disaster or something, how do so many people fit through that narrow aisleway? I'm going to have to ask God if when I get down that aisleway, I'm going to ask, I really thought about that. I'm like, how can they all get through there? And then the next thing I knew, and it's not like you're like walking, it's not like this life at all, but I was suddenly before my two deceased grandmothers. And they looked like my grandmas, like, the older women that they were, but they looked happy and healthy, not like before they passed away. And I was happy to see them and they were happy to see me. And so I said, okay, come on, girls, let's go. And like, we're going to walk down that aisleway together. I'm like, ooh, like I had company. It was great. We're all going to go together. And my grandmother said, you can't go with us. You have to go back. And I felt very nervous. And I said, well, I can't go back because I'm not physically okay. And I was pointing to my left side that was paralyzed. And she looked at me and her eyes were like these endless, we have blue eyes and they look like these endless tunnels of blue light. And I couldn't see, they were endless tunnels and I couldn't take my eyes off her eyes. It was almost like thoughts were conveyed to me through her eyes is how it felt to me. And when she said that I can't go with them, I have to go back. And I told her about my left side. She said, your body will heal. And that's when I couldn't take my eyes off her eyes. And it was almost like she didn't say it. It was like those thoughts were conveyed to me. And when she said, your body will heal, I felt the Holy Spirit. I was totally wrapped and it felt like this big warm blanket and I felt safe and protected. And that's what I feel, why I feel safe and protected. I still feel that blanket around me every day. And then she said, go back and be happy. And that's why we named the book that, because I was asked to be on TV a whole bunch of times. People heard about crash. I was on the Dr. Oz show. And so they said, well, you also need to write a book about this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not a writer. So Margaret McSweeney wrote the first version, and then Jim Sullivan, who I work with at Fairhaven, he wrote a wonderful dedication to my dad to begin the book. It's really beautiful. And it just talks more about my story and more about my experience in heaven and more about the rehab that I was in for like the first 12 years. After I was in Mary and Joy for a few months. And when you can start to, as you guys all know about how hospitals work, when you get to a certain point, I had to be released and discharged, and I went and lived with my mom and dad, and then with my sister, because I could not live by myself yet, because I was still mostly in a wheelchair. And it, when people say what was one of the hardest things to get back, I say to be potty trained again, because it's not like you don't know how. Of course you know how, but you don't have the feeling. So you don't know when you're going. And to be paralyzed on your left side, and to be a girl, it's a lot easier for guys. And to be a girl, to know that the toilet is behind you, and to be able to pull your pants down and do all that in a timely manner before you go to the bathroom. I had a lot of accidents, and so it took time. And still now to this day, I'm sure you can hear my voice a little raspy. And when I was in Target, there was a gentleman who was standing behind me, and I was talking, to the cashier, just through regular conversation. And he said, wow, that's a ventilator voice if I ever heard one. And I said, you must be a doctor. And he said, yes, ma'am, I am. And he said, what was your injury? And I said, brainstem injury. And he's like, oh, nice recovery. He's like,
Wow. Great.
he's like, that's a ventilator voice if I ever heard one. And I'm like, yeah. Well, and so they did some voice box surgeries that were, because when I woke up, I really couldn't say too many words. I would be able to touch my face with my right hand and be able to form a few words, but not to be able to talk like this. So, I don't know excuse me, if everyone else thinks it's a blessing that I can talk this much, but I'm happy to be able to do that. So I don't know if you guys want to, do you have anybody who wants to ask any questions or?
Well, no, well, what we really are happy about is that you were able to really, I mean, you just told everybody how you were and how you felt, and I just want to say a couple things from our ends. I mean, Lori and I remember the day I got the phone call. I remember standing in my kitchen. I remember the phone on the wall, picking it up. And actually my mother-in-law called me because, your Tammy being your sister, is my sister-in-law married to my husband's brother, and so my mother-in-law made the phone call. And I'm like, no, there's no way. There's no, I didn't want to believe it, When we went to the hospital to see you, what was significant is some of the first things we did was pray. That was some of the first things. And I do remember holding your hand, and I remember bringing music. I remember, and we talked about music therapy last week. I don't want to cry, but it's so true, some of the things that happen. But I always said, and I had heard how Dr. Shea did not expect you to live. And I said, no, she's not. She's going to live. I kept saying that she is going to live. She will be fine, because I knew what a fighter Julie was, but I knew God wasn't done with her. I just could tell, I just knew it.
Said too.
And your dad and I had a very interesting connection. Your father was very good to me. He was a very sweet man, and as well as your mother. But I mean, your father and I had this, he'd always call me kid. Hey kid, are you okay, kid? Is your husband treating you good, kid? Because if he's not, I'm coming after him, kid. He'd always say that to me, right? And he'd always, and so he's such a great man. But from our aspect, and I don't remember conversations with you, Lori, but I'm sure we had them. I'm like, no, she's going to be fine, and the progression of what you went through, people have no idea, and people need to read this book. I mean, people need to get this book. And I got to tell you something crazy. I'll tell you a story. Julie's in this book. There's a beautiful picture of her in here when actually, no, I'm sorry. On your website, you have a picture. And maybe it's the same one still where you were running at Lakeshore Drive. It kind of looked like you're running.
Yes.
You did triathlons prior to being injured. And when you wrote the book and you did your first run, Dr. Shea ran by your side right here in Midwestern University, which was
a 5K, and
it was a 5K.
It was 6 years after my injury, and 10 years ago I did a triathlon, an indoor triathlon. Yeah, because he wouldn't let me do one. He goes, I am not going to let you go out there in the Chicago in the river and have the chance of you getting kicked in the head. He goes, I'm not bringing you back from this twice. And he knows that it was not him. He actually, there's a clip from the 700 Club show that he would only do one interview. He really didn't like to be out there publicly a lot, but it was a Christian show, and so he felt comfortable, and he wanted to tell people that it was not he who did this healing, because I had a closed MRI where they filled my brain and spinal cord with dye 6 months after my injury, because he wanted to see exactly what damage was left, and my brainstem was normal.
Oh, God bless.
It was normal. And I could hear the operators, the MRIs, and she was like, oh my gosh, it's normal. It's normal. I mean, they couldn't believe it. And then my mom and dad and I went and saw Dr. Shea, and he actually had me speak in front of a group of physicians and read the results out loud, because they knew exactly what had happened to me. And he had me read the results to them, because nobody knew what to make of it. But Dr. Shea was a believer, and he said, this is nothing I did. This is God's work. And that's why he went on the show. And that's why I put it on the website too, because.
Right. And and it's crazy. I remember seeing you as you ran, and I remember telling you, if you can do that, Julie, I will run that. And I did. And I had my daughter Vanessa did the 1K with her cousin Clayton, which is your nephew. Right. I mean, we're connected, and it's the craziest thing. But again, I just want to say that your book is phenomenal. Your second copy, I actually am going to be guilty that I have not read, but I will have to read that. But people need to read the book to hear your story, and know this gives them hope. I have borrowed this book out to many people and have purchased books for many people who have got them through certain challenges, and their challenge might not be necessarily about what happened to you. It might be something different, and it has been amazing, So with that, Lori, I want to turn it to you, because I know we did a segment on miracles a couple of days ago, and we perfectly positioned ourselves to have you here, Julie. So Lori, take it away.
Well, I just want to say, Julie, it's just amazing. And, you are such an amazing woman too. And the thing is, people have to understand, with God, all things can happen. Your story gives people so much hope, and you have to have the faith. And I did not have the amount of injury or nothing that you had, but I was in Mary and Joy for 6 weeks.
Right.
And they were terrific. But
Yeah,
I remember them saying, you do what I ask you to do, and you'll eventually be, because I wasn't walking either. And but mine was not like yours. It was just a surgery that went bad. But I just want to say, you kept fighting and fighting. You were not giving up. And then hearing your grandmothers talking to you like that is just amazing. And people should not fear death at all because of what had happened to you. A lot of people fear that. But like I said, I just think the story is amazing. Everybody should get the book. She's got websites, and she's got Facebook pages, and we're going to put all the links down there for you. But again, it's just amazing. We all needed to hear this story today. It was so important for everybody in this world to hear this story. So I am so grateful that you were on today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on. My gosh, it's my pleasure.
I haven't seen you in such a long time. It was just a joy to see you today and listen to you and talk to you. So
that's good.
But with that, Debbie, you want to finish this out?
Absolutely. I just want to say that, for everyone who's watching today, please share this. Please share, Julie's story. Also, look us up. We're very excited. This is our fall season that we just started, for the health and wellness of you now has a YouTube page, guys.
Yes.
And for the health and wellness at gmail.com, we are there too. We've got some great stuff, but message us if you've got a story that you want to get out there. You have an experience, you have a passion, you have something that you could add value to others. That's what this is all about, only positive, no negative, no politics.
Right.
That is what we are. That's who we are and what we stand behind. And so with that, I want to say,
can I interrupt you a second?
Yes, please.
If there's this is what I love to do is talk to people. And so and this, as I said, I believe is what God has asked me to do.
Right.
There's on my website, gobackandbehappy.com, there's a contact me page. Please feel free to go there. And if you would like me to either speak to your group, or if there's just something that you want to share or say, please feel free to reach out to me there. I'd love to hear from you.
Oh, that's
excellent.
great.
Excellent. And if you ever have a question of how to find Julie and you didn't write this down or whatever, that you can just contact us as well and we'll guide you there. But we're going to put all her links and on the bottom of this presentation. And with that, I want to say, everybody, spend some time with your families this weekend. Spend some time with your friends. Get outside. Get outside and do something good, because it's nice this weekend. Okay? Be in the sun. Soak up some of that vitamin D. Okay.
Right.
And with that, thank you, Julie, so much. We love you.
Thanks, Debbie. I love you too.
We love you. Okay. Okay. Love you. See you all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.